The champagne flute shattered against the marble vanity, shards exploding like tiny grenades across the hotel suite's pristine floor. "I can't do this. Steven, you're such a fucking saint. But I need more than this vanilla bullshit," Alex's voice echoed from the cracked bathroom door, his words slicing through the air like a razor through silk. Steven froze in the doorway, his heart slamming against his ribs, the tuxedo suddenly feeling like a noose tightening around his neck as the man he'd loved for 3 years confessed his wandering soul to some faceless stranger on the other end of the line, just 48 hours before their wedding in the heart of Napa Valley. Steven's world tilted, the opulent Four Seasons suite in San Francisco blurring into a haze of betrayal. He'd flown in early from their shared loft in the Castro district, buzzing with the kind of electric joy that only came from planning a forever with the man who made every sunrise feel like a promise. Alex Harper, the rising star architect whose sleek designs dotted the Silicon Valley skyline, had swept Steven off his feet 4 years ago at a Pride after-party in the Mission. 2 shots of tequila and a stolen kiss under the rainbow flags that turned into late-night confessions over dim sum in the Tenderloin. They'd built a life together, lazy Sundays at Baker Beach, whispered "I love yous" during red-eye flights to New York for Alex's TED Talks. And now this, a vineyard wedding with 300 guests, including Steven's conservative parents from Ohio who'd finally come around after years of tense holiday calls. But as Alex's voice dropped to a husky murmur, "Yeah, baby, tomorrow after the vows, we'll sneak off. You know I can't resist that fire you bring." Steven's knees buckled. He gripped the doorframe, nails digging into the wood, a metallic tang of blood on his tongue from biting his lip too hard. This wasn't some tabloid rumor, this was his Alex. The one who'd tattooed Steven's initials on his ribcage during a spontaneous Vegas weekend, promising eternity under the neon glow of the Strip. The phone clicked off, and Alex emerged, towel slung low on his hips, his chiseled abs glistening from the shower, oblivious until his eyes locked on Steven's ghost-white face. "Shit, babe, how long have you been standing there?" Alex's casual grin faltered, replaced by a flicker of panic that he tried to mask with a reach for Steven's hand. Steven jerked back, his voice a strangled whisper. "Long enough to hear you planning your escape hatch." "Who's, baby?" "The one who's gonna fuck you in the coat room while our friends toast to us." Alex's face drained of color, the architect's sharp features crumpling like a failed blueprint. "Steven? It's just cold feet. Pre-wedding jitters. You know how the pressure gets to me with the firm breathing down my neck? The media spotlight." But Steven was already unraveling. The fairy tale they'd spun, complete with Pinterest boards of wildflower arches and custom vows etched on reclaimed oak, cracking at the seams. He stormed to the balcony overlooking the Bay Bridge, the fog rolling in like a shroud, and yanked out his phone. His thumbs flew across the screen, a lifetime of swallowed doubts bubbling up, the late nights Alex claimed were client dinners, the way his eyes lingered too long on the bartender at their engagement party in the Haight. No more. If Alex wanted to torch their story, Steven would make sure the world watched it burn. By dawn, the first post hit Instagram, a screenshot of the overheard call, anonymized just enough to protect the innocent but laced with enough detail to point straight at Alex Harper. "Heard this from my fiancé the night before our wedding. Thought our love was forever. Guess forever has an expiration date. Betrayed at the altar, gay wedding gone wrong." The caption exploded, retweets cascading like dominoes from queer influencers in LA to gossip mills in Manhattan. Steven's follower count, modest from his job as a graphic designer for indie queer zines, skyrocketed overnight. He didn't sleep. Curled on the suite's king bed, the sheets still smelling of Alex's cologne, Stephen replayed their beginning like a masochistic montage. It started in that sweaty, strobe-lit warehouse on Folsom Street, bass thumping through their veins as confetti rained down. Stephen, fresh out of a soul-crushing breakup with a closeted finance bro from his undergrad days at UC Berkeley, had been nursing a gin and tonic when Alex slid up beside him, all easy charm and ocean blue eyes. "You look like you could use a dance partner who won't step on your toes," he'd said, his hand brushing Stephen's waist in a way that sent sparks up his spine. They danced until the lights came up, then stumbled into a 24-hour taqueria, sharing carnitas tacos and stories of small-town escapes. Stephen from the cornfields of Ohio, Alex from the Rust Belt grit of Detroit. By morning, they were tangled in Stephen's mission apartment, sunlight filtering through the blinds as Alex traced lazy patterns on Stephen's back. "You're it for me," he'd murmured, lips against Stephen's ear. "No more half-lives. We're building something real." And they had. Alex's career took off with a viral project, a sustainable high-rise in Soma that blended glass and green space, earning him features in Architectural Digest and invites to A-list galas. Stephen supported him quietly, designing logos for Alex's firm while navigating his own dreams of illustrating a graphic novel about queer icons in American history. They adopted a rescue mutt named Finn, a scruffy terrier who became their ring-bearer in training. Family dinners with Stephen's mom, who'd evolved from Pray the Gay Away pamphlets to baking rainbow cupcakes. Alex's dad, a stoic auto worker, gruffly approving over Zoom, "Treat him right, or I'll drive that Prius cross-country to kick your ass." The proposal had been pure magic, a hot air balloon ride over the Sonoma vineyards at sunset. Alex on one knee with a ring forged from recycled gold, vowing, "You're my North Star, Stephen. Marry me, and let's rewrite the stars." Stephen had sobbed yes, the kind of ugly cry joy that left him hiccuping into Alex's shoulder as they descended. But as notifications pinged like gunfire, TMZ speculating, Out magazine demanding quotes, Stephen felt the weight of it all crashing down. Alex burst back into the room around noon, disheveled in yesterday's jeans, eyes bloodshot. "What the hell have you done? My phone's blowing up, clients canceling. My board's in meltdown. This is our lives. Stephen, we can fix this privately." "Privately?" Stephen laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the walls. "Like how you fixed your boredom with side pieces. Alex, you don't get to play the victim. You lit the match." They argued until the sun dipped low. Words like shrapnel, Alex accusing Stephen of jealousy over his success, Stephen hurling back the pain of lonely nights waiting for texts that never came. Finally, Alex stormed out, slamming the door with a vow, "If this is how you want it, wedding's off. But you'll regret making us a spectacle." Stephen sank to the floor, Finn's head in his lap, the dog's warm breath a small anchor. Regret? Maybe later. For now, the scandal was his shield, a raw howl into the void that said he wasn't invisible. As the first interview requests flooded in, from podcasts like Queer as Folk Redux to CNN's morning show, he realized this wasn't just revenge. It was rebirth. The vineyard loomed like a green sea under the relentless California sun, rows of Cabernet vines whispering secrets to the wind. Guests milled about the tasting room, oblivious at first, sipping rose and snapping selfies with the floral chuppa Stephen had agonized over for months. But as the hour ticked toward the 3 o'clock ceremony, whispers turned to murmurs, phones buzzing in unison. By the time Stephen's best man, Jamie, a fiery drag queen from their college days at Berkeley, pulled him aside, the dam had burst. "Honey, the tea is scalding," Jamie said, her sequined gown shimmering like a disco ball. "Your man's been tagged in every shade on Twitter." "Spill, what's the play?" Stephen straightened his vest, the silk cool against his fevered skin. "The play is I walk down that aisle alone. Let them see the groom who's still standing." The crowd hushed as string quartets struck up an acoustic cover of At Last, Etta James's Soul Pouring Out Over the Hills. Stephen emerged from the barn, arm linked with his teary-eyed mother, her floral sundress a stark contrast to the storm in his chest. Heads turned, gasps rippling like aftershocks. No Alex at the altar. Just the officiant, a silver-haired lesbian rabbi with a knowing smile, and an empty spot where the architect should have stood. He reached the floral arch, heart pounding, and faced the sea of shocked faces, queer couples from the Castro, Alex's buttoned-up colleagues from the firm, Stephen's straight-laced aunt from Cleveland clutching her pearls. "Dearly beloved," the rabbi began, but Stephen held up a hand, voice steady despite the quake inside. "Change of plans? Everyone. Alex isn't coming. And neither is the lie we were about to swear." He pulled out his phone. The Instagram post projected live on a hidden screen behind the vines, courtesy of Jamie's tech-savvy boyfriend. Gasps turned to murmurs, then a swell of supportive cheers from the back rows. "I loved him with everything I had," Stephen continued, his words carrying on the breeze. "We met at Pride, danced under the lights, built a home with bad takeout and better dreams. He proposed in a balloon, promised the stars. But stars fall, and so do people. Last night, I heard him planning to cheat hours before he'd say, 'I do.' So here I am, not broken, but honest. Love isn't a fairy tale if it's built on sand." Tears streamed down cheeks in the audience, his dad's quiet nod from the front row, Jamie's whoop of solidarity. Phones captured every word, live streams exploding across TikTok and Instagram Reels. Stephen Stans became a hashtag, memes of fairy tale princes ditching crowns for capes flooding feeds. By evening, as guests toasted with vintage Chardonnay, to real love, messy and true, Stephen felt the first crack of light in his chest. Not healing, but hope. Word spread like wildfire through the valleys. Hitting the Bay Area headlines by midnight, jilted groom exposes fiancé's cheating plot in epic wedding speech, queer community rallies. Alex's firm issued a terse statement distancing themselves. His socials went dark. But Stephen? He woke the next morning in a guest cottage, Finn snoring beside him, to a flood of DMs, not hate, but heart. Messages from survivors of betrayal, invites to speak at Pride events in Austin and Chicago, even a book deal whisper from a Penguin editor who'd seen the viral clip. Yet the high faded into hollows. The silence screamed. Photos of Napa trips mocked from the fridge, Alex's drafting table sat dusty in the corner. Stephen packed boxes one rainy afternoon, rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Castro's rainbow crosswalks. That's when the doorbell buzzed, and there stood Marcus, Alex's former in turn turned rival architect, holding a six-pack of Anchor Steam and a sheepish grin. "Heard about the shit show," Marcus said, his warm brown eyes crinkling. "Figured you could use a beer and someone who doesn't bullshit." Marcus had always been the quiet type, tall, with a mop of curly black hair and forearms roped from climbing Half Dome on weekends. They'd crossed paths at firm parties. Easy banter over IPAs about brutalist versus mid-century modern. Stephen let him in, and they cracked cans on the fire escape, the city lights twinkling below like distant fireflies. "You're handling this like a boss," Marcus said, clinking his bottle. "Most guys would have ghosted the world." Stephen shrugged, the ache flaring. "Feels like I'm still ghosted." 3 years? Poof. They talked until the beer warmed to flat. Marcus sharing his own scars, a bad breakup with a bi-curious actor who'd bailed when things got real. "Love's not a blueprint," he said softly. "It's the rebuild after the quake." By week's end, the scandal had legs. Alex surfaced in a tearful apology video from a Malibu hideout, claiming misunderstandings and begging forgiveness. Backlash was swift, boycotts of his projects, queer activists picketing his office with signs reading, "Design integrity starts at home." Stephen watched it unfold from his phone, a mix of vindication and pity churning in his gut. Alex called once. Voicemail slurred, "I fucked up. Stevie. Come back. We can spin this." Delete. Instead, Stephen dove into the wave. He guest-hosted The Moth storytelling night at the chapel in SF. His raw recount drawing standing ovations. Then came the podcast circuit, making gay history in NYC, where he unpacked the romance's highs, the betrayal's gut punch, and the scandal's silver lining, a community that wrapped him in its arms when his own love let go. But the real turn came at a low point. 2 months post-wedding that wasn't. Curled on the couch with takeout pad thai and a rom-com rerun, Stephen's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, "Saw your speech. It saved me from walking down my own aisle tonight." Dinner? Theo. Theo was a barista/screenwriter from the Silver Lake scene in LA. With freckles across his nose and a laugh that crinkled his eyes like autumn leaves. Their first date was at a hole-in-the-wall taqueria in the Mission, echoes of Alex. But Theo ordered extra cilantro without apology. Shared unfiltered dreams of adapting Audre Lorde's essays into a queer noir film. No grand gestures. Just quiet magic, museum afternoons at SMOMA. Die Setting passtujättes Furi, Starkazing und Winbergs. Theo's hand finding Stevens in the dark. Doubt crept in. Whispers of too soon and what if. But one night, as they slow danced in the loft to Nina Simone on vinyl, Theo pulled back, searching Stephen's face. "I'm not him. And you're not broken." This. Stephen's walls crumbled, tears hot on his cheeks. "Scared I'll turn this into Scandal 2.0. Theo cupped his jaw, thumb brushing a tear. "Then we write a new story. No spotlights. Just chapters." As autumn bled into winter, the city wrapped them in its fog-kissed embrace. Stephen's graphic novel took shape, pages of illustrated heartbreak morphing into resilience. Funded by a Kickstarter that shattered goals. Alex faded to footnotes, a quiet divorce filing, a pivot to consulting in Portland. The scandal became legend, quoted in queer lit classes at Stanford. A TEDx talk Stephen gave on betrayal as catalyst. One crisp December eve, under the Mission's twinkling lights, Theo knelt in their fire escape garden. A simple silver band glinting. No balloons or vines, he grinned. Just me. Asking if you'll build with me. Forever. Stephen pulled him up, kissing him fierce and sure. Just. To all of it, the fairy tale hadn't ended in ashes, it had evolved. Scarred but soaring. A testament to love's messy, magnificent rebuild. In America's beating queer heart, Stephen learned that scandals forge steel. And true romance? It blooms in the afterglow. The proposal lingered in Stephen's mind like a half-remembered dream as he navigated the post-scandal minefield. But Theo's ring on his finger grounded him in the now. Their life together unfolded in soft contrasts to the chaos with Alex. No high-stakes galas. Just potlucks with Theo's screenwriter buddies in No Valley, where scripts were swapped like baseball cards and laughter drowned out the occasional pang of memory. Stephen's novel, Shades of Us, hit shelves that spring. Its cover, a half-body silhouette of a man gazing at a fractured skyline, mirroring the prompt that had captured his raw portrait months before. Reviews poured in from The Advocate to NPR, a gut-wrenching triumph, proving that queer hearts don't just break, they bend toward light. Yet scars itched. At a book signing in the Ferry Building, a fan pressed close, eyes wide. Your story gave me courage to leave my toxic ex. But do you ever wonder if Alex was right? That the spotlight changes people? Stephen paused, Sharpie hovering. The question stung. Dredging up nights he'd scroll Alex's sparse Insta. Glimpses of a humbled life in Oregon, flannel shirts, craft de bourriture, a new dog that looked suspiciously like Finn's cousin. Spotlight doesn't change you, he replied, signing with a flourish. It just reveals who you were all along. Theo was his anchor through the tours, LA Red Ice, where he'd surprise Stephen with in-and-out runs, whispering lines from half-written scripts to ease the jet-lag blues. Their intimacy deepened in stolen moments, Theo's fingers tracing the faded tan lines from Napa's sun on Stephen's back. Murmurs of "you're safe" against his temple during thunderstorms that rattled the loft's windows. Sex wasn't fireworks anymore, it was hearth fire warm. Bodies sinking like well-worn jazz. Theo's breath hitching on Stephen's name like a prayer. But conflict brewed, subtle as fog creeping over the Golden Gate. Theo's script? A gritty tale of two black gay men navigating Reagan-era AIDS crisis? Caught the eye of a Sundance producer. Offers trickled in, attachments to A-listers. Whispers of festival premieres. Stephen cheered loudest, but envy gnawed, a green-eyed echo of Alex's ascent. Late nights, Theo hunched over his laptop, Stephen sketching alone in the kitchen. The distance felt like fault lines shifting. It cracked open one fog-shrouded evening in June. They'd planned a quiet anniversary dinner at Zuni Cafe, oysters and roast chicken. The kind of place where locals nursed Negronis and eavesdropped on first dates. But Theo's phone buzzed mid-toast. A callback from his agent. This could be it? Bibbs pilots? Maybe a series. Stephen's smile tightened. Fork scraping porcelain. And what about us? Your chapters scattered across sets in Vancouver. Theo's brow furrowed. The producer's glow dimming. Oh. Where's this coming from? This is our win. Yours too. After everything. Everything. Stephen's voice rose. Heads turning in the bistro's glow. You think I don't see it? The late calls? The networking drinks. It's Alex all over again. Just with indie cred instead of blueprints. The words hung. Toxic as exhaust. Teorikai. hurt flashing like brake lights. I'm not him. Steven. Good. After all this, you still see shadows? They stormed out into the hate's haze, Theo hailing an Uber back to their place while Steven wandered the panhandle. Benches slick with dew. His phone stayed silent, no groveling texts. Just crickets. By midnight, he let himself into the loft, finding Theo on the couch. Script pages crumpled in his lap. Eyes red-rimmed. I get it, Theo said quietly. The betrayal wired you for this. But I'm fighting ghosts I didn't kill. Steven sank beside him, the fight draining like tide. I'm scared. Losing Alex gutted me, made me this armored version of myself. What if I push you away too? Theo pulled him close, the scent of his cedar cologne a balm. Then we armor together. Talk it out before the bomb drops. Forgiveness came in waves. Couples therapy with a queer counselor in the Castro. Sessions unpacking Steven's trust fractures like puzzle pieces. Co-writing a subplot inspired by Steven's novel, a resilient artist reclaiming his narrative. And slowly, the fault lines sealed, their love deepening into something unbreakable, laced with the wisdom of wounds. Summer peaked with Sundance buzz, but the real high was personal, a road trip up Highway 1. Windows down, Springsteen blasting from the Jeep speakers. They camped at Pfeiffer Beach, purple sands glowing under moonrise. Bodies entwined in a tent as waves crashed like applause. This, Theo whispered, fingers laced with Steven's, is our fairy tale. No scandals. Just us against the horizon. Back home, the world intruded anew. Alex resurfaced, not with pleas, but a package on the doorstep, a manila envelope. No return address. Inside, a flash drive and a note in Alex's looping script. You deserved the truth. Not excuses. Watch if you want closure. But Steven's pulse thrummed. Theo at his shoulder. Burn it. Instead, they plugged it in. Grainy footage flickered, Alex in a dimly lit Detroit bar. The one from his stories. Microphone in hand at an AA meeting. I chased highs, booze, boys, to fill the void Dad's factory shut down left. Steven was my safe harbor. But I torpedoed it because I didn't believe I deserved calm waters. Cut to therapy clips. Alex raw and repentant, admitting affairs as self-sabotage, not Steven's failing. He turned our pain into power. I hope he finds the peace I couldn't give. Tears blurred the screen. A catharsis Steven hadn't chased. It's not absolution, he murmured, ejecting the drive. But it's human. Theo kissed his temple. And you're more. Autumn brought harvest. Theo's script greenlit for a short film. Premiering at Frameline. Steven's novel snagged a Lambda literary nod. Panels buzzing with fans who'd tattooed quotes on their ribs. Stars fall. Hearts rise. At the afterparty in a Soma loft. Overlooking the bay's sparkle, Steven spotted a familiar face across the room. Jamie? Radiant in emerald velvet? Arm around her new wife. To scandals that sparkle, she toasted. Clinking glasses. You turned poison into prose? Darling. Steven laughed. Theo's hand warm in his. And love into legacy. As leaves turned gold. They hosted their first Friendsgiving. Finn under the table scavenging turkey scraps. Theo's mom FaceTiming from Seattle with corny dad jokes. No ghosts at the table, Just gratitude carved deep. But life, ever the dramatist, scripted one last twist. A winter call from Steven's agent, Hollywood sniffing around shades for a limited series. Think Heartstopper meets Fleabag, raw, right? Real. Offers escalated, showrunner roles. Cameos for queer icons. Steven's gut twisted, fame's siren call. The very beast that devoured Alex. Theo sensed it over mulled wine by the tree. What's brewing in that beautiful head? Opportunity, Steven admitted. Ornaments twinkling like warnings. But after the circus. Do I want the ringmaster hat? Theo's eyes softened. Wear it if it fits. I'll be your front row cheer. The decision simmered through Yule logs and New Year's toasts. By January, Steven signed, executive producer, penning episodes that wove his story with composites, betrayals redeemed, loves reborn. Filming kicked off in the valley, trailers dotted with extras in Napa finery, echoes of what was. On set one drizzly afternoon, directing a confrontation scene, Steven locked eyes with the actor playing Alex, a method guy with piercing blues. Off-script intensity. Cut, Steven called. Heart racing. Not anger, pity. Nail the regret. Make it ache. The actor nodded. Breaking character. Heard the real story. You're a legend. Man. Steven waved it off. But inside, the loop closed. Alex's betrayal wasn't villainy. It was a mirror to his own fears. Shattered now. Spring bloomed with premieres. The series dropped on a streaming giant. Critics raving. A queer odyssey that turns scandal into sacrament. Views spiked. Discourse forums lit with Steven Speaks threads. Fan mail flooded. Letters from Ohio teens coming out. Detroit dads reconciling with sons. Theo's film swept Frameline Awards. Their red carpet kiss splashed across Variety, unscripted, unapologetic. To the rebuild, they toasted post-win. Champagne fizzing like stars. Yet humanity's thread pulled taut. A late-night call from Alex's number, weak voice. Hospital hum. Cancer. Stage 4. From the chemo I hid during our fights, booze masked it. Wanted to say sorry. Live this time. Steven gripped the phone. Theo's hand on his knee. Fight it? Alex. You deserve that much. Hanging up. Tears fell, not for lost love, but a man finally facing himself. Human. Huh. Steven whispered. Theo nodded. All of us. Summer solstice found them on a Sonoma deck, not the wedding site, but a quiet B&B with wildflowers nodding in breeze. No vows. Just promises renewed, rings exchanged in firelight. Finn as witness. To chapters unwritten, Theo said. Steven smiled. Horizon endless. And scandals that set us free. The solstice promise held through the haze of summer's end. But autumn winds carried undercurrents Steven couldn't ignore. His series, Echoes of Us, became a cultural touchstone, binge-watched in college dorms from Ann Arbor to Austin. Sparking campus panels on queer resilience in the age of viral heartbreak. Invites piled up, commencement speeches at Yale's Queer Alliance, keynotes at human rights campaign galas in D.C. Theo thrived in the glow. His short film morphing into a feature pitch. But Steven felt the pull of solitude amid the roar. Like a lighthouse keeper craving the sea's quiet rage. One crisp October Friday, after a grueling press junket in Seattle, Endless, how did betrayal feel? Probes. Stephen returned to the loft to find Theo pacing, script in hand. They want reshoots, Theo said, frustration etching his brow. Budget overruns. Means 2 weeks in Joshua Tree with a skeleton crew. Stephen forced a grin, unpacking his duffel. Desert vibes? Sounds poetic. I'll hold the fort. Finn and I can binge The Golden Girls. But Theo's hesitation lingered. Eyes searching. It's not that. Rumors on set, producers whispering about edgier cuts. More sex? Less soul. Feels like selling out the heart we built it on. The air thickened. Old fissures threatening. Stephen pulled him down to the rug, Finn flopping between them. Then fight for it. You're the visionary. Not them, Theo exhaled, leaning into Stephen's shoulder. And you? Jetting off to every spotlight. Miss you in the quiet. It was the unspoken success's double edge, carving joy and jealousy in equal measure. They navigated it with walks along Ocean Beach, waves gnashing like unresolved chords, hashing out boundaries over fish tacos at Beach Chalet. No more ghosts, Stephen vowed. Vivek, not check out. Theo's reshoots yielded gold, a Sundance-bound cut that preserved its tender fury, earning Theo a Spirit Award nom. Stephen flew out for wrap, surprising him with a cooler of craft brews and a stargazing tent amid the desert's yucca spines. Under a canopy of Milky Way fire, they made love slow and deliberate, bodies mapping constellations on skin. This is our north, Theo gasped, Stephen's name a talisman against the void. Back in the bay, winter's chill brought unexpected warmth. Alex's battle turned public. A raw essay in The Atlantic, from blueprint to breakdown, a gay man's reckoning with addiction and love. Readers devoured it, queer forums dissecting his remorse without absolution. Stephen read it in a Castro cafe, steam curling from his lot, a pang of empathy softening the edges. He texted, "Brave words. Keep fighting." Alex's reply, "Thanks to you. Your story lit the way." Closure. Not reconciliation, a bridge burned but remembered fondly. New Year's Eve dawned with reinvention. Theo proposed a sabbatical, 3 months off-grid in Big Sur, writing retreat in a cliffside cabin rented via Airbnb. No Wi-Fi. No world, he grinned. Just us. And waves. Stephen hesitated, series season 2 loomed. Outlines due, but the pull one. They packed light, notebooks, Theo's guitar, Stephen's sketch pads, Finn's leash for coastal romps. The cabin perched like an eagle's nest. Redwoods framing Pacific vistas. Salt air thick with possibility. Days blurred into rhythm, mornings of yoga on the deck. Sea lions barking approval, afternoons scribbling side by side. Theo's dialogues intertwining with Stephen's illustrations. Evenings. Bonfires crackling. They shared drafts, Theo reading a scene of tentative first kisses, Stephen sketching the lovers' shadowed profiles. Intimacy flowered anew, lazy 69s by firelight. Theo's moans harmonizing with wind, dawn showers where Stephen dropped to knees, water cascading as he worshipped Theo's thighs. But isolation bred introspection. One stormy night, thunder rumbling like existential doubt, Stephen confessed over herbal tea, "Success scares me. With Alex, it poisoned us. What if it taints this?" Theo set his mug down, rain lashing windows. It only taints if we let it. Remember Napa? You chose vulnerability over vengeance. That's your superpower. Lightning cracked, illuminating Theo's face, freckles like stars, eyes holding galaxies. Stephen kissed him then, fierce and forgiving, the storm outside mirroring the one quelled within. The retreat birthed treasures, Theo's feature script. Harbor Lights, a love letter to overlooked queer elders, Stephen's sequel outline, weaving Theo's essence into a healer's arc. They emerged tanned and tangled, ready for re-entry. Spring erupted with acclaim, Echoes snagged Emmys for writing and lead performance, a breakout twink channeling Stephen's fire. Theo's film premiered at Tribeca, standing ovations echoing his themes of redemption. Red carpets became their playground, Stephen in tailored Tom Ford. Theo's arm possessive, flashing peace signs at paparazzi who once hounded heartbreak. Yet drama shadowed triumph. A tabloid drop, jilted groom's new flame, copycat romance or genuine glow-up? Grainy pics of their Big Sur cabin? Speculative prose on rebound risks. Fans divided, some shipping Steo forever. Others dmang warnings, don't let fame fairy tale you again. Stephen laughed it off publicly, but privately, it festered. At an after-party in the village, champagne flowing, a producer sidled up to Theo, your boy's hot property. Ever think solo projects? Less baggage. Theo brushed it off. But Stephen overheard. Paranoia blooming like nightshade. Home on the red-eye. Silence stretched taut as taffy. What was that? Stephen finally asked. City lights streaking below. Teosai. Hollywood bullshit. Ignore. But it's always there, the pull to solo shine. The fight ignited mid-cabin pressure, accusations flying, Stephen's insecurity poisoning the well, Theo's evasions echoing Alex. Words escalated, voices echoing off bulkheads. Until Stephen cracked, maybe we're just pretty wreckage. Drawn to collision. Theo's face crumpled, pain raw as exposed wire. Or maybe we're building, and fears the wrecker. They landed fractured, the loft feeling like a museum of might-have-beens. Days dragged, separate beds, civil texts about dog walks. Jamie intervened, dragging Stephen to a Divisadero bar for emergency estrogen hour, though her wife's presence made it a full-spectrum summit. Love's not linear. Sugar, Jamie drawled. Martini olive skewered like a sword. It's a goddamn labyrinth. You gonna let one minotaur chase you out? Her wife nodded. Hand on Jamie's. We almost bailed pre-vows. Therapy saved us. Try it, before the myth becomes memory. Stephen booked the session. Theo agreeing with weary hope. Their counselor? A non-binary sage with tattoos of intertwined vines. Unpacked the layers, Stephen's betrayal PTSD clashing with Theo's ambition anxiety. A toxic tango born of love's intensity. Weeks of work yielded fragile peace, date nights enforced. No shop talk zones. Gratitude jars filled with scribbled, I adores, Theo's for Stephen's laugh. Stephen's for Theo's steady gaze. By summer solstice redux, they renewed under the same Big Sur moon. Naked and unashamed, bodies reaffirming vows. Alex's light dimmed that fall, a quiet passing in a Portland hospice, eulogized in queer obits as a builder who learned to mend. Stephen attended virtually, toasting from afar with Theo, to flawed architects of the heart. Grief mingled with grace. Propelling Stephen's work, a non-profit arm from Echoes, funding queer youth writing retreats. Theo directed his debut, casting Steven in a cameo, a healer mending his own reflection. As leaves fell, they adopted a second rescue, Luna, a sassy shepherd mix who herded them toward joy. Friendsgiving swelled, Jamie's crew, Theo's film fam, Steven's Ohio kin via Zoom. Toasting, to labyrinths conquered. Winter whispered of expansion, Theo's positive test on a home kit. Confirmed at UCSF, surrogacy dreams realized after years of talks. Our Chapter 3, Theo beamed. Ultrasound wands glow on screen. Steven's hand on his belly, still flat, but brimming. Our legacy. Spring's promise bloomed full, a positive scan. Names brainstormed over dim sum. The world watched their journey, docusseries greenlit. Fans flooding with well wishes. No scandals. Just shared spotlights, illuminating paths for others. One golden afternoon in Golden Gate Park. Under cherry blossoms shedding pink confetti, Steven knelt, not with ring, but sonogram print. Marry me, Theo. Not for tales, but truths. Embraces. The fairy tale. Reborn not in vines but vines of family. Roots deep in scandal's fertile soil. The wedding planning unfolded like a gentle unfurling fern, no vineyard extravagance, but a backyard affair in no valley. String lights woven through olive branches. Wildflowers in mason jars nodding to their unscripted start. Steven and Theo opted for intimacy, 50 souls, a mix of blood and chosen family, officiated by the same rabbi from Napa's near miss. Vows were handwritten on recycled paper. Steven's voice steady as he promised, I choose you. In quiet coffees and chaotic calls, through spotlights and shadows. You're my rewrite, my horizon. Theo's reply. Eyes shining, you taught me love isn't plot armor, it's the courage to bleed pages. Here's to our endless draft. Finn and Luna wore bow ties, prancing as ring bearers, while Jamie emceed with body toasts that had aunts blushing and uncles roaring. A lavender-infused naked sponge, cut with shared laughter, frosting smudged on noses like war paint. As dusk painted the hills lavender, they danced to, at last, Edda's soul a full-circle echo, bodies swaying in sync, the world fading to their rhythm. Honeymoon called them to the southwest, Sedona's red rock cathedrals. Vortex hikes where energy hummed like Theo's early scripts. They camped under star-drenched skies, making love in sleeping bags zipped as one. Whispers of baby names, river for a boy, sage for a girl, mingling with moans. Back home, the loft transformed, nursery murals Steven painted, starry swirls guarding dreams, Theo's lullaby demos on guitar, melodies soft as sea glass. Pregnancy's poetry turned prosaic by trimester 2, Theo's cravings for kimchi fries at 3 a.m. Steven's midnight massages easing swollen ankles. They navigated with humor, Theo's bump selfies captioned, bun in the queer oven, and honesty. Therapy check-ins unpacking paternal fears, Steven's Ohio echoes of Man Up, Theo's absent dad from Silver Lake splits. Summer swelled with the belly, Echoes Season 3 wrapped filming. Steven directing an episode on fractured families mending. Alex's essay inspired a subplot, a reformed anti-hero seeking amends, humanizing without excusing. Critics lauded it. Morrison's lens turns personal pain into universal grace. Theo's film hit festivals. Outfest closing night triumph drawing teary standing OS. Post-screening Q&A. A fan asked, How'd your love survive the glare? Theo glanced at Stephen in the wings. By dimming it sometimes. Love's not a solo close-up, it's ensemble. Fall's harvest brought harvest moons and due dates. Labor hit on a harvest moon hike in Marin. Contractions like seismic rumbles. Theo white-knuckling Stephen's hand en route to UCSF. 20 hours of grit and grace. Theo's roars. Stephen's coaching whispers. Finally a cry piercing the ward like dawn's first light. River Elias Morrison Harper arrived at 4:17 a.m. October 12th, 6 pounds of fury and wonder. Tiny fists waving like protest signs. Theo cradled him first. Tears tracing paths down his cheeks. While Stephen snapped Polaroids. Heart so full it ached. Our plot twist, Theo breathed. River's latch instinctive. Parenthood's prologue was sleepless sonnets, midnight feeds under constellation projectors. Diaper dashes synced like choreography. Stephen's arms, once sketching heartbreak, now rocked lullabies. Theo's voice, scripting revolutions, cooed originals. Community cocooned them, Jamie's anti-duties with glittery onesies, Ohio grandparents' virtual story times, Finn and Luna's vigilant sniffs. Challenges crept like ivy, colic symphonies shattering REM. Theo's postpartum fog clouding his shine. Stephen's series deadlines clashing with teething marathons. One witching hour breakdown. River wailing as rain lashed windows. Theo snapped, I can't, this isn't the dream. It's drowning. Stephen pulled him close. Baby between. Rocking trio. Dreams evolve. We're directing improv now. They leaned on networks, queer dad groups in the Castro. Playdates at Dolores Park where tots tumbled under palm shade. Therapy adapted, family sessions unpacking dad guilt. Theo journaling blooms from the fog. Winter wrapped them in woolens and wonder, River's first snowflake gaze from the window. Chubby fingers pointing at flakes like discoveries. Echo's finale aired Christmas Eve. Ratings soaring. A dedication scroll, for River, may your story sparkle. Spring's thaw brought River's giggles. Gummy and golden. Chasing Luna's tail across the loft. Stephen's novel trilogy capped with Horizons Unbound. A father's ode to fractured lights mending. Theo helmed a doc on queer surrogacy. Interviews weaving their thread into tapestry. By River's first birthday, a park picnic with piñata and pandowdy, their circle swelled. New friends from toddler tots. Old ones evolved. Alex's memory honored in a tree planted at the Presidio. Plaque reading, Roots from Ruins. As summer circled back, they escaped to Sonoma, not for echoes, but erasures. The family cabin. River splashing in kiddie pools. Stephen and Theo stealing kisses amid vines. One evening. Fireflies dancing. River asleep in a pack and play. Theo raised a glass of sparkling cider. To the scandal that started it all. Stephen clinked. Fireglow on his face. And the love that finished it. Years folded like pages, River's first steps in the mission. Kindergarten crayons depicting two dads. One big heart. Stephen's imprint grew, graphic memoirs mentoring young queer artists. Theo's banner films earning Oscar nods. Always crediting, my muses. Plural. Scandals? They became lore. TED Talks and memoirs distilling pain to purpose. Stephen spoke at Yale. Betrayal isn't the end, it's the edit that sharpens your voice. Theo. Accepting an indie spirit, love's greatest plot, turning thui. In quiet moments, River's bedtime tales. Theo's head on Stephen's lap during Golden Girls reruns. They knew the fairy tale wasn't glass slipper fragile, but redwood resilient, roots drinking deep from storms. One dawn, years on, Stephen woke to Theo's note on the pillow, "Meet me on the bridge, Golden Gate." Fog lifting like veils. River, now lanky teen, filming on his phone. They stood railside. City sprawling. Hands clasped. 10 years, Theo said. Still my north. Stephen kissed him. Salt wind whipping. And you're my endless draft. River hooped. Capturing the frame. Two men. Silver-threaded. Against eternal blue. Not scandal survivors. But stories sovereigns, human. Horizon-bound. In America's vast narrative, their arc whispered, love endures. Not despite the breaks, but because of them. A gay story, etched in stars and scars, forever unfolding.